What's going on, team? Welcome to an episode of the Keep Going Podcast, Season 2. This is your co-host, Luke Wheat, coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Before the show starts, make sure to follow us on our socials, okay? Twitter, the Keep Going Pod, Insta, the KG Podcast, and YouTube at the KG Pod. Just a reminder that we are not psychiatrists and not psychologists, just a couple ex-athletes trying to make a difference and end the stigma of mental health. Thank you guys for listening, and let's get to the show.
That keep going moment.
My keep going moment.
That's my keep going moment.
Let's keep going. Welcome, team, to episode 74 of the Keep Going Podcast, Athletes Shining a Light on Mental Health. This is your co-host, Luke Wheat, coming out of Maryville, Tennessee this morning. Pat, where are you coming out of, buddy?
Yeah, man, I just told you guys in the prelude, I am on my recliner. I'm trying to keep my legs still and heading over to Athletes HQ here in a little bit. Heather, where are you coming out of?
I am in Greenville, South Carolina. It's a rainy
Greenville girl.
Sunday morning over here, but ready for this.
No, for sure. I was just in Greenville a couple months back with Rich, Luke, out there by Clemson. How close is that to Clemson, Heather?
45 minutes or so, give or take.
Yeah, I think
You
I
were
was
just out here, Pat. You didn't let me know.
I'm told.
We're
Yeah,
already on. So
now.
here's the thing. I was out there for a day. I was speaking at Clemson with Rich Jurgen, and we had a very tight itinerary for that week, I guess you could say. But I was only there for a day. I was in Simpsonville, technically.
Yeah, it's right down the road.
Yeah, of course it
Really.
is. Okay, so next time I come out.
The town.
Yeah, so next time I come out, we'll have to get together for sure.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. Yes.
You flew into the airport, which is a second from my house. So.
Oh my goodness. So see, this is why we have the pod. So I know next time to go
we came
together.
on here to find this out.
Yes. Awesome. And anything crazy on the agenda for today, this Sunday?
Not on my end.
All right, got it.
Nothing going on over here, but I'm really excited to have a tennis player.
Yes, I'd have to agree.
74 episodes in, no tennis players so far.
Oh my goodness, you're testing my memory, but no one as great as Heather. So like you're gonna you're gonna hear all about it today. I'll give Heather a quick intro, and honestly, Heather, I could go a bunch of different directions with this. Obviously, you've been with us at NCSA since I've been there. Obviously, Division I tennis player. You went the ROTC route, obviously at Air Force, but that's kind of not what I want to touch on today, Luke. My intro for Heather is, have you ever been on like several Zoom calls with a person, right? And you're thinking, wow, this person is amazing. She impacts the company. She's kind. She does all this stuff for other people. And you're just praying and hoping when you meet them in person that they're the same person. Luke, have you ever experienced that before?
Absolutely.
Well, I got the chance to meet Heather a couple months back for the first time. And like, it's crazy. Like you're thinking, okay, I hope she's the same person. She outlived those expectations for me, and just a sweet, awesome woman. And Heather, everything you've done for me and NCSA and the people in your circle, I just want to give you your flowers kind of right off the bat for sure.
That's so sweet. Pat, I could say the same about you.
Oh, thank you.
Pat's a sweetheart. And I'm glad to know Heather now as well. But the way he talks about NCSA, man, everybody over there is a great person to work with. We had Ned on the pod just about a month ago, and man, he's an awesome dude as well. He's taken me into his home many times whenever he didn't know me that well early on in the year. So shout out Ned as well.
Yeah, always good time to shout out Ned. But Heather, like I said, we're blessed. We're honored to have you. And I want to kind of just go into a brief kind of intro on the mental health side of things. So obviously, former Division I athlete. You obviously work at NCSA now, been there for many years. Talk about what mental health means to you and why you wanted to join the podcast today.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'm honored that I was asked to be on this. I think that what you guys are doing is so important, and it's something that I'm a big advocate for, supporting the whole athlete, right? Not just them in the skills side of things, but everything they can do to help themselves be a great performer on the court, field, wherever it is. But the mental health piece is a whole other element, and it's something that I've had really close exposure to from early on in my tennis career, and just with people close to me that really struggled. And so it's, for me, it's not about the mental health that I really personally endured over the years. I was never really given the tools to support the people that were struggling. And I think that's just as important as the people that are struggling themselves, is the people around them knowing how to help them.
No doubt.
I think finding space to, support someone, but also not overreach, right? It's such a tough line to walk. And that's something I got to do with the high schoolers every day as well, because they're still, they're 15, 16. Sometimes they don't want you asking certain questions. So you got to find those right times and find the right tools to support them. It's a tough line to walk for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. And I've talked about it on other episodes. Like, you don't know until it's in your circle. You don't know until it happens to you, right? Like, I've been pretty vulnerable on other episodes saying, like, until I got to like 24, 25, I thought mental health was fake. I thought people were like just over exaggerating common problems. And then like you get affected by it, or someone you really care about is hurting. And then, like Heather said, you don't know how to help them, which is terrifying. So I think that's a great point right off the bat. And as we go on, Heather, I know you went through not the mental health side, but some mental toughness, going to school at Air Force, going through the military route, playing Division I tennis. Talk about that and that experience for sure.
Oh, that's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm very competitive, and I played a lot of sports, and I think actually probably one of the best things I ever did was play multiple sports, because tennis is an individual sport, and I learned to be a team player really early on, and it's almost strange that I went the individual sport route. But when you play in the college setting, you take this individual sport, you make it a team sport, and the the part that I needed to learn was how to control my emotions. And that was something that took a long time. It wasn't easy. It didn't come naturally. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad used to tell me if anybody talked to me the way I talked to myself, he would just like unravel,
That's
right?
good.
Like, so it was so upsetting, to the point where my parents actually pulled me out of sports altogether for a year in middle school. Said, this is too intense. They made me go to the drama side of things, and I was not very talented. I remember I grew up in San Diego, and we lived near SeaWorld. This show that I was in was I forgot what it's called, the Sea and Me or something, and I was like in the way back, like hitting the drums on something. It's the only place they could find me. Like, let's put her over there. This is not my place to shine, but it was a hard year, for sure. But and I don't think that year coming right back, I was instantly cured. But I think it was a good move for my parents, just to pull back and say, you are not defined by your sport, and you need to back up and see there's more to this world. And that was probably a great perspective to help kick me off into this curing me of like, okay, I need to chill out.
Wow.
Middle school age, high school age, you said?
Yeah, that was in middle school.
Yeah.
A similar conversation with, so I coach at a Marable College right now, and it's my head coach that, for me, is the one I'm working with. And he was talking about same thing with me, like freshman year, like I'd let a goal in or something in practice and just like kick the post, or like, say a couple things you shouldn't said it to anybody else would be a real issue. So saying it to yourself, you got to treat yourself with the same respect as you treat others. And that's a tough thing to learn and teach a kid for sure.
Exactly.
No doubt. And I think that was based on, Noah's episode last week about like, you have to be selfish for yourself sometimes. Like, I deserve this, so I can give that to others. So if you're in the net, Luke, I saw you smiling when Heather started talking, because like I know your mental health journey, right? Like, when you're in the net and you were struggling, it was easy to beat yourself up. You're on an island out there. The same way in tennis, like when you're one-on-one, when you're not playing doubles, right? Like, you are on an island by yourself. So it's kind of an interesting perspective for both of you guys today. So awesome. I love it. So Heather, talk more about the tennis side. So everyone has their story where like they kind of take a step away from sports for a little bit, but I didn't know that was the case. So talk about when you get back into tennis and like how you kind of started to, chase your dream, I would say.
Yeah, I was very grateful to be back on the court. My parents finally let me sit, I was begging them for a year. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I think that gratitude went a long way. I don't know if I would put it in those words back then. I don't think I was mature enough to realize that,
Mhm.
but I was grateful to be back on the court, and I was willing to put in the work. I used to have, I'm a little bit older than you guys, and back in the
Okay,
day,
I'm not. No, 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 not doing that. Not doing that.
I'm just saying, I don't know if you had VHS back then, but I did. And
Okay, okay.
I used to watch this one mental toughness. It was a very famous tennis mental toughness video. I watched it every single day. I even brought it with me when I'd go babysitting and the kids would go to sleep, and I'd put it in on watch the same as this bullseye, this, the outer ring every day for all of high school. And that I think it was the start of just brainwashing myself, right? Like we talk
Right.
a lot about this. Like people listen to podcasts like this or
Thank you.
read books or all the different things that fuel their brain with positive things and the right mindset training and tools. I think that was the start of it for me. And really college is where I flipped the switch, and I learned, I think a lot of it had to have been because I was at the Air Force Academy, and the basis of being there is around character development and leadership training. And I think the realization that I was playing for something bigger than myself. And so
Yeah.
I was here on my team, and I wanted to perform well. I wanted to do great. But when I stepped on the court, I'm not representing just myself. I'm representing my team, and my team is actually representing the United States of America. Like it was a lot to
Yeah.
put on your shoulders. And I didn't want to be that person that was embarrassing, right? I didn't want people to, oh gosh, think, oh, Air Force tennis, and associate them with that with me
Hmm.
being a brat on the court. So
Right.
that really helped grow me up quite a bit.
Yeah, Luke, what do you
Yeah,
got there?
100%. No, we always talk about athletes that they're a representation of the program. Right? They're usually always wearing their MC gear around town in Maryville and Knoxville, and people know the area, right? So if they make a bad impression on somebody, or if they make a good impression on somebody, it reflects back on our program, and that's something that helps teach them about the real world as well, and doing a good job, and doing it because you're doing it for more than just yourself.
For sure. For sure. Do you feel like, and this is just a question for you, Heather, do you feel like putting those daily habits in, starting to instill that stuff early on, like it takes what it takes? Do you feel like that benefited substantially in college?
Definitely. I think that there's this element of what can you control with it, right?
Right.
And when you're younger, you can go through those motions. And yes, I can read some books, I can listen to advice, I can watch and learn from, being a student of the game, those types of things. And it is a little bit going through the motions. And then as you're growing, you're getting more and more mature. So all of a sudden, all those habits that you've instituted over the years of while you're not really fully developed and there, I think it's easier for it to flip that switch and click, where somebody can't just going in not having done the work at all, and then all of a sudden they're mature. That's, in my opinion, would be a much tougher path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Luke,
100%.
unfortunately, we'll be vulnerable as a couple of D3
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
I think we figured this out later, like
yeah,
us
absolutely.
personally. And I think for our athletes listening today, like run back that last 2 minutes, what Heather just touched on. Like it is so tough making up for all that lost time. Like if I could tell
Yeah.
my past self something, like go back and do this now, so you don't have to feel the pain of it later on, and like you have to break down more walls than you might have had to. Luke, I'm almost betting my kidney you feel the same here.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's just it may not have changed the physical situation part of it, right? The situation may have still been the same, but the perspective that you go through it with could have been different, which it would have made even more of an impact on our lives in a positive direction. So I definitely feel what you're saying there, Pat.
Yeah.
So Heather, talk to me about this. What was did you do 4 years at Air Force? What were the 4 years like? How did you start freshman year, and how did you feel end in senior year?
Um, Very transformative, I would say.
Yeah,
I
For
would
I would
think
starters,
so.
imagine.
I would think
I
so.
could
Yeah.
imagine.
um,
The quarterback there last year from our school, and he's figuring that one out.
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty amazing how it works out there. I first of all, I went in 3 inches shorter, so I grew quite a bit, which is unique in itself. But I went there as a recruited athlete, and yeah, I had to have the grades and the academics to get me in the door and such. But I believed in my head when I went there that I was there because I'm an athlete. And I was surrounded by these crazy smart people, just another level. And I was just the athlete. That's the story I told myself. My grades that first semester, like the things that I was celebrating, to this day I remember getting it was out of 500 points. I got a 230 on a chemistry exam, and I was celebrating because I didn't fail it, which kind of did, but to whatever curve I didn't.
Yeah.
And what was I celebrating? Like that was such a light bulb moment of I started stepping back and being like, I can do better than this. And so I started getting extra help and going in and then started realizing, okay, this isn't actually that it's challenging, but I can do it. And so I went from a 2.3 GPA my first semester freshman year, and I ended up a distinguished graduate. I had a high GPA by the end. I pulled it all up. I had a lot to make up for from that first semester, but it really kind of woke me up to saying, like, you're more than just an athlete, right? Like, you can do it, and anybody can do it. And I find myself sharing that with not that part of the story often. It's not super proud of like that terrible GPA, but
we won't tell anybody. Don't worry. It's all
don't tell
good.
anyone.
No,
I'm just
that's
kidding.
just
There's no
between us.
secrets here. No, I find myself telling people like there's always going to be somebody better. There might be faster, stronger, smarter. There's always somebody there, but then there's always somebody that's behind you in some area also. Like you're not going to be like, I thought I was going to be the slowest and like I just didn't think. I thought everybody was going to be so far ahead of me.
Right.
And I think that, yes, in that environment, it's really like a magnifying glass for the people that were there were just so impressive. But in life itself, in companies and organizations and wherever you go in teams, there's always going to be people that are struggling a little bit and have other areas that they're ahead in and maybe behind. There's always this balance. And I think that we sell ourselves short way too often.
Yeah.
So stay there for me. You talked about Air Force being a place that really builds leaders. Talk to me about, what are the 2 or 3 things that a good leader does? Coming from your time at Air Force and learning that at that amazing academy over there.
Right. I think the biggest one, I think a leader knows how they lead. I think it's important to be themselves, and we see it. It's like a leadership laboratory there. Basically, the way that it works is your upperclassmen are leading the underclassmen,
Okay.
and a lot of times you find some of them were leading by title, and then you see the ones that you really respected and you wanted to work hard for were leading by earning that respect. And that's something that I really latched on early on. I didn't want to tell someone to do something just because of the title next to my name. And I also feel real strongly about leading by example. I think that's just probably the number one key is making sure that if you're going to ask somebody to do something that you're willing to do it right there with them.
Right.
And just all around, right? And then of course effective communication. I don't know how other you
Yeah,
have
for
Way
to
to put it. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
For sure.
got it. No, for sure. And that kind of parlays nicely in where I want to go into the coaching side of things. Because I know that I'm still involved in facilities out here. I still do lessons, still work with teams. I know Luke is all over the place, high school, college, doing a lot of coaching as well. And Heather, so are you. And I think some of the best things I see on your social media are not really the NCSA stuff. It's you working with your athletes still and you working with your kids. So I want to stay there. Talk about you working with athletes now and your experience with that.
I love it. I love it. It's time consuming and it's draining in a lot of ways. It takes a lot of me, and but it's something that I guess I really have this ideal where I was so fortunate to have coaches in my life. Specifically, I had my college coach who she really taught me how to pour into others.
Shout her out. Shout her out.
Coach Kim Gidley. She's
There we go.
amazing.
There we go. There it is.
And now it's not always rosy. I mean, we had a lot of headbutting in the day. I mean, it wasn't always, she was just warm and fuzzy. Absolutely not. And all for years. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs, but she was so consistently all in with her players. And it's evident because now, 20 plus years later, and all of her players, that she's just continuously investing in them as people. And that's something that I want to do for others. I feel like tennis really opened so many doors for me, and sports has really just kind of really changed my life in so many different ways and helped shape me. So I want to do that for others. I don't want to just coach them and teach them how to play tennis. I want them to go out and actually make a difference in the world. And I think that this, I work right now with high schoolers, and that age range is just that is such an impressionable time. And they can take what they learn in that environment and apply it later on, or it could just be a check the box activity that they did. So I feel really strongly, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to be out there, if I'm going to be around them, then I can take just this small little group of people that I get to impact and hope that I send them off into the world and they can think back to their days of high school and really learn from it and hopefully pay it forward down the road too.
It's strong. Yeah. It's being who you needed when you were younger. And
yeah. I love that.
My brother talked about it in his episode. That's 70 episodes, but it always stuck with me. Like being who you needed when you were younger, because like you look back at like some of these coaches and the strong survive, right? Like you take this coach did this terrible, so let me flip it into doing something good when I finally get the opportunity to. But you have those great coaches like yourself, like Luke, like other people in my circle that I sent you the email the other day, that are life changers. Like they're not just coaches, they're life changers. Luke, what do you have?
No, I think I kind of want to touch on the individuality of like tennis and how much you can build a connection with a coach because of that. Goalkeepers are generally pushed off to the side of the field with their goalkeeper coach, and you're there for about 30 minutes, an hour of a 2 hour session. But because of that, they pour so much into you as an individual, and I think that's how you can make such a great connection, right? So just shout out all those coaches out there that are coaching an individual sport and the impact that they make in their student athletes.
Yeah, I would argue that it's tougher. I would argue that it's tougher. Like I talked about being on an island earlier, and not only as a player, but as a coach, that you have to look across the court and be like, remember what we've worked on. Like I know you're out there by yourself, but you're not by yourself. Heather, talk about that from a coaching perspective. When you have athletes that are maybe having mental health struggles, or athletes that are having performance anxiety or struggling, like talk about what you've done and kind of your experience there.
It's hard. It's really hard because we all go through it. And, as a coach, you know what your players are capable of doing. And then when they get out there and you see them, the nerves creep in or the frustrations, you want so badly to just say, like, you're fine. Like,
right. You got
you're
this.
Good. Yeah. From the outsider perspective, like your swing still looks great. That was all here. Like your arm feels broken, but it doesn't look broken.
Yeah.
I try and do my best to help them visualize and, give them different tactics of what to tell them themselves, in the moment. One thing that I really, really like and, is to try and walk through different scenarios ahead of time, right? Like, how are you going to respond when X, Y, or Z happens? Like days before, right? So they build those habits beforehand so they know what to revert back to. But sometimes in the moment, it's just that you just need to breathe. You just need to breathe and think through, like, not what's going wrong, not what I'm not, why isn't anything working, but like what is an actual fix that you can do. Not I want to play better, but like, well, why, so I just ask a lot of questions. Well, why isn't your forehand working? Why aren't you okay? Well, what can you do? They might respond with I need to do this. And like, but is that an action? Like you need to think different. You need to tell yourself something a little bit differently. So, you work on it as much as you can, and then at the end of the day, after the match, you write down what wish do you wish you should
Yes.
have done? What do you wish
Yes.
that you would have changed and done differently, so that, and sometimes I'll throw that out there too, like in the moment, like, I don't want you to leave anything out there. I don't want you to regret anything. Play the game that later you're going to be like, okay, I'm glad I did it that way.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, there's so many good tidbits there for like our athletes. And I'll be honest with you, even for our coaches, because I'm not the same coach now, Luke, that I was at 22, man.
Yeah.
Like I made a lot of mistakes. I'll be vulnerable and accountable for that. But I think it's a lot of good snippets here for coaches and for players saying, okay, leave no doubt in your preparation, right? Go out there and not react to things, but respond to things and journal before, even like in baseball, you have it's different than one-on-one sports, but like during and after, and talk to your coaches and be open to different things. There's so much good there. So thank you for sharing that for everyone involved. Luke, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the journaling piece there is huge because it'll start helping you recognize patterns, right? Of just things that are maybe you're doing during the day, that's not getting you prepared for your sport, or maybe that's your mentality during or before, like pregame or postgame, that's really setting you up for failure. And journaling can really get to the root of those causes. Um, so Heather, we're about at 25 in here, and this is about the time. Before we go into the bigger question, I want you to just take a second. I know we shout out your old coach. I love this question though. I want you to take a second and just shout out people that inspire you every day. So just two or three people, or maybe just one that really gets you going and makes you feel like I can do this today.
I don't want to sound cheesy, but I got to shout Pat out here.
Okay,
Oh my
nice,
goodness.
nice.
He's in my world every day, right? Like I see him at work, like I'm up early, I send him a note, he's responding early, like he's
Oh,
always so
Luke,
positive.
it's early. It's 4:30. It's
I don't
no.
know why he's responding. Nobody
Heather is a
responds to that.
grinder. If she knew how many days I started with a message from her, and honestly, not many people are getting the responses. So it's amazing how she operates. But go ahead, Heather. Go ahead.
No, but you got to look around people that you see in your day to day life. Of course, like my parents inspire me and my siblings, and there's people that have my tennis, my colleagues, and former teammates, and all those things. But in your day to day world, the ones that like keep you rolling and keep you inspired, it's someone like Pat who's I know his heart is in the right place on a daily basis. And that's something that is so meaningful and so impactful and makes me want to follow suit.
Yeah, and Luke, I've never had to chime in on one of these answers before, so I have to. It's just Heather is that person though for me as well. Heather's the kind of person that I literally met her the first time over one of our company events a couple months ago. And not only did I love her as much as in person as I did virtually, but like end of the night, like we're taking pictures and we're talking and like the night ends. I'm still with all like Heather and like my manager. And it's just talk about filling your cup like till it overflows. Like that's how I felt like for the week after that. So Heather, just know you're the same way for me. And I know you have so many people to shout out, so I really appreciate you mentioning myself. But talk about your family, talk about your friends, anybody else you want to shout out that inspires you.
My family is everything to me. So, I've got an amazing husband who does so much behind the scenes to help keep us in line, but and our kids, just everything that I do every day is for them. And what inspires me about them is that each one is so unique and they're not me, right? And we all have our things, and I'm so passionate about sports and all the things that I talk through on a day-to-day basis and the path to college and this and that. And my kids are, I've got one that's like a total athlete and all in, but I've got one that's so musical and so gifted in so many ways. And then I've got one that's still growing into herself that's just so uniquely her. And I think that that's what just makes it so special and it just totally inspires me all the time.
I think that's the beauty of it. I think having your people that you can lean on, but also like they're not all the same, right? It's different trials, different tribulations, it's different successes and accomplishments. I think there's a lot of beauty to that. So I can just tell that
Exactly.
social media, like how active you are with your husband, obviously with your kids. It's beautiful. So I love it. I love it, HG, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got two girlfriends who I graduated from the academy with. One was on the tennis team with me, and one was another athlete. She played lacrosse, but the we have this rolling conversation. We use this app called Voxer. I'll shout out the app.
Oh my God,
But it's kind
we got our first
of Kelly.
sponsor. Here we go, Luke. Here we
Yeah,
go.
right. Yeah.
But seriously, I'm super busy. I'm terrible at text messages and responding. I'm terrible at getting back to people. I'm awful at making phone calls. I'm all over the place when it comes to being able to set aside time to talk to people. But for somehow this has been going on for 8, 9, 10 years more. I
Wow.
don't know. We
Wow.
have had pretty much daily conversations where you're basically leaving a voice message. It's a group of the three of us, and
Yeah.
those two have really just they've kept me focused, kept me going, and they've lifted me up in tough times. And what they accomplished, I mean, these are some of the most successful, driven women imaginable. And I'm just so blessed and fortunate that they're a part of my life on such a regular basis.
Yeah. Do you
Awesome.
want to shout them out?
Oh, sure. Kelly
Because
Pfeiffer and Jackie White.
we can't have the app be the only
Yeah.
thing that gets
Sorry,
shouted.
I'm sorry.
Say it one
No.
more time. Say the names one more time.
Yes, Kelly Pfeiffer, my we were called counterparts. She was recruited with me at Air Force, and
Nice.
we were always kind of pushed aside when we were freshmen. Like, oh, those two are always together. And
Oh,
Jackie White, yes, they are
oh,
phenomenal people, great
amazing,
Awesome.
human beings.
amazing. Now that's why Luke asked the question for stuff like that. Like that's
I
amazing.
know.
I love
There's
that.
always something in the background that after the episode, a couple times early on, they're like, "Oh, we meant to shout this person out." So I want to make sure to ask that as much as I can remember to.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of accountability partners, and like we always talk
Yeah.
about it in here. Like Heather, we started this podcast based on a group chat that we started about 2 years ago with like all of our most inspiring people that we knew. And it built into like all of a sudden me and Luke going, we should start this podcast, right? But like truthfully, and I shouted them out earlier this week, like in the chat, like we would have never done it without them. You know, like
Absolutely.
I'd love to give us the credit, but like it was our people that did it. It was just the overall vibe from those people and what they meant to us. So I get it, how that can get you through some really tough times and inspire some really big things like what we're doing right now. So,
I love it.
Absolutely.
okay. Well, Heather, I'll do it today because I know we're 30 in. You are so positive. Like what you do every day is like it's a refreshing breath of fresh air for us at NCSA and everyone that you associate with. But like it wasn't always like this for you. Tell me your keep going moment when you kind of felt like you were down in the dumps, but you got through it and it propelled you to where you're at now.
All right. So my keep going moment was it was back when I was in school and college, and it wasn't my keep going moment in the time at the moment. So
Yeah.
I'm going a little off a little bit, but it is what I reflect on regularly when I feel like I need to keep pushing forward. So do we have time for a little story? No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you got all
Yeah.
morning, girl. Go ahead.
Go
All
ahead.
right, all right. Okay. So when at the academy, you have to take a class called Survival Swim. And part of this class is you have all these little tests that you have to do to pass the class. And one of them is you have to jump off the 10 meter into the pool. You swim under the bulkhead. You're in your full, camouflage uniform. Swim under, inflate up. It's a whole survival thing. And I don't love heights. So I struggled the entire semester long. Everybody would get up there, practice jumping off. I just like couldn't get myself off of it. And the last day of the class comes, and I still hadn't jumped off this thing and passed everything else. And I was so mentally frozen that literally I couldn't even get myself off of the 5 meter, the 3 meter. I don't even think I was able to jump off the side of the pool. It was bad, and that's like a whole other element and a whole other conversation that I think is important of how powerful your mind is. Like you can't jump off of the side of a pool. Like that's something I'd done thousands, millions of times, but I
Right.
was so frozen. So now I'm at the very end, got the instructor down on the pool deck, like waiting on me. we did our class was the same time as like a bunch of the athletes, got like all the football players, everybody. Thank God there's no social media. It was super embarrassing.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
standing up there on the top of this 10 meter. So Kelly, who I just mentioned, she was in the class with me. She realizes that, oh gosh, if Heather doesn't get off this thing, she fails the class. She doesn't play tennis. I'm on active probation. It's a big deal. So she runs down to the tennis courts, grabs our coach. Coach comes running in. She's wearing like her squishy tracksuit, like back in the day style.
Right.
And she's throwing her shoes off on her way, and she climbs up the ladder. She also doesn't love heights. She gets up there. She's like, all right, Heather, I'm going to do this. If you're willing to do it, you jump right after me. So I'm like, okay. So she launches herself off without hesitation. Like, again, like, why do I coach? Because I have exposure to somebody who would do that for me. So she did it. Took me probably 5 more minutes. I finally got myself off that thing. So it was I think it was a game-changing moment, right? I mean, I got myself off of it. I did it. I passed everything. I didn't fail the class. And again, thankfully, it wasn't posted all over. There were rumors. Everybody was talking about how Heather's stuck on the high dive. But the reason why I say it wasn't this moment that I looked at in the moment as my keep going is because I actually do believe that my tennis got better, my confidence improved. I don't think I realized it was all of that, but the part of it was my coach for years, 10, 15 years after I graduated, would go to these different donors and different speaking opportunities to try and raise money. And she always used this story. And this was a story that that brought so much money in for the program, but it wasn't about the money. It was more just like the things and the challenges that this school puts players through. And then when they overcome it, and then she has all the stats, which I don't really keep track of all my tennis stats, but it's like night and day difference of me, a sophomore year me to junior and senior me. So when I think about the keep going moment side of it, it's, anytime I'm struggling, anytime I feel like, am I inspiring to anybody? Am I doing what I need to do to be impactful? I think about how many times has she told that story about me? And I could look at it as like, oh, that was really embarrassing. But I'm actually really grateful that story has actually spiraled into so many good things.
I'm not going to sit here and rank keep going moments.
I was about to say this. That is my favorite keep going moment of all time. Hands down.
That's insane.
I have chills throughout my whole body.
That was unreal. That had me on a roller coaster too. I was like,
I need to unpack this, or I won't be able to forgive myself for not talking about this live. That is incredible for so many reasons. The first thing is the fact that your coach just dropped everything that she was doing and ran to the pool. I can just picture that. And then the second thing is understanding that even after that happened, you still took time to be like, okay, oh my goodness, the magnification of this moment is so big, right? There's so many people there, but it happens so often with athletes. This is such a learning moment for our athletes again. That mental block of, I can't do it. I won't be able to ever do it. I can't do it. Oh, I have someone that can do it. Nope, still didn't help. Still not there yet. It takes time. It's normal to run into things that really make you uncomfortable. But the lesson that we can learn here is not only did that propel you to new heights in your career as a student athlete, but you inspired so many after that.
Man, yeah. Yeah. It just shows how important the mental side is, right?
Yeah.
It just magnifies that, the importance of just powering through and perseverance for sure.
Yeah. What's the quote? And we're not a religious podcast. If you believe in God, if you believe in the higher power of the universe, whatever, we're not going to tell you what to believe in. But it's that quote, sometimes that mountain will be put in front of you to show others how to make it move. And I think that was a prime thing where you're sitting up there at the top of the mountain, okay, well, time to get this done. And I think you needed some help along the way, but You needed to prove it to yourself. I love that. That is, we talk about this podcast like, oh, we're going to clip that. Yeah, that's absolutely going to be the clip that we use. That is it.
Clip, for
that
sure.
that is incredible. That is incredible. All right. So, oh my goodness, I don't even know how to get past that. That was amazing. So, we always do rapid fire questions at the end. So, I want to go through it, and I always put Luke right on the spot and make him ask first. So, Luke, go ahead.
Tennis player.
I'm a big Fed fan. Love Federer.
Got it. I'm not in a lot of tennis circles. So, like, if you like Federer, does that mean you hate Nadal, or like, do you love both of them?
I think there's merit to that. I don't hate Nadal. I think he's done amazing things for the game. He's a great, phenomenal player. I use him as an example, actually, for routines. It's like everybody, even if you don't watch much tennis, you probably know what his pre-serve routine looks like. So, plenty of props out there for him too. But there's a little bit of that.
Yeah,
a cannon of a left arm too, because
yeah.
If you haven't seen the pictures, you can go look that up. The difference between his left and right arm. It's kind of insane.
Yeah,
I digress.
I will get into more tennis circles after this. I promise, guys. I promise. Okay, cool. All right, the next one. All right, favorite cheat meal that you feel like doesn't get enough playing time. So not like, oh, I go have pizza. Tell me something that like other people might not be eating that you feel like they should be.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I love sushi and ice cream. I don't know if you can.
Perfect. Yeah, that works. That works.
Right. Play. That's a fact.
Yeah, sushi doesn't get enough playing time.
So good.
Yeah, really good. All right, favorite sushi piece before we move to Luke.
Salmon.
Okay, cool.
Pretty basic.
I like it.
Yep, I love it.
I like it.
Luke, what do you
got? Favorite trip you've ever taken?
Oh wow. I travel, Luke. That's a big one. I don't know. Favorite trip. Oh goodness. You know what? I don't know if I can pick one. There's when I'm just like went through my bank of all the different places that I've been, I think that all the quick memories that just like shot at me were all different like random stories of like the fun things that we had with the people we were with, right?
Yes.
So it's like I don't know. We've been all over the world. We took a trip to Spain. That was one of my more favorite ones in Spain and southern France. And I think mostly I loved it less about the sights, but more we really stopped in a few places and spent a few days with the kids. We travel with a family, friends of ours who also have kids our kids' ages, and just all the stories and the little things that the kids did together. And so that's one of my favorite. There's just so many though.
No,
the Pyrenees is beautiful. The Pyrenees are beautiful.
Normal.
Yeah. Sometimes things align. I'm looking up at. We have this poster at myself and Ashton's place, and it says, "Home is wherever I'm with you," and it's a giant map of the world, and it's about your people. And it really is. I think I tried to go back and think like what my favorite trip was, and it's always like about the people. Like I don't know. Yeah. I feel like if you're with your people, it could be anywhere. And I think that's beautiful. It really is. Got it. Okay. I got one more. And we've tried to get better at asking this question over the last like 20 episodes because I feel like the first 50, we were just worried about not sounding ridiculous on here, to be honest with you. Like it's gotten a lot better, Heather, over the last couple of 20 episodes or so. But the question is, you've impacted so many lives today. Like hundreds of people will listen to this. So I appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday. What can we do for you? Like, how can we help you achieve what you want to achieve? How can we help as a podcast and a nonprofit to help
you? Keep doing what you're doing. I think, I started out in the beginning of this talking about how hard it is not just to be having been the athlete that struggled with things, but to be around it and know how to support. And I think that's something that's really lacking. And it means something. I mentioned, I've had real close. I mean, I've had the extreme, right? My high school doubles partner took her own life when she went on and played Division I tennis. Like I was very close to that. I went on to having to make some hard decisions to prevent that from happening to some others that I was closely tied to that confided in me. And I had to, as a 19, 20-year-old make decisions to speak up and to say something, which actually costs very big things for this person. And I think that there's just not enough resources out there that help somebody that was in my shoes. I mean, what 18, 19, 20, 22, I mean, even 30, even me, like, like at that age, how do you know what you're supposed to do, what's right? You're just following your instinct. You probably call your mom, call your dad,
Right.
call someone and just get their advice. But at the end of the day, like, you have to make a call that you think is the right call. And there's probably no playbook for it, but podcasts like this where you're talking about it and it's becoming more, just the awareness is so important. So if anything, like, to me, what you're doing is helping me. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And I
appreciate that.
I really do. And I know you do a lot of the mental toughness stuff and you help out with IMG, like with NCSA, and spreading that awareness and putting it in your circles and being that person that people rely on and go to, which I feel like you're that person for a lot of people. Which I commend you for that, which is amazing. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for who you are. I think it's easy. I feel like we're just sitting in a kitchen right now having a 45-minute conversation about mental health, and that's how it should be. So for student athletes, for coaches, for everyday 9-to-5 people that are listening to this episode today, understand that you are a conversation away and a connection away from feeling better. I think that's really powerful. And I am very thankful for this group today. And Luke, I'm thankful that we're still doing this, man. So Heather, thank you too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Pat already inspires me every day, but now I've got another person to inspire me. I'm going to keep that keep going moment with me this week and many more weeks to come for sure to get me through some tough days. But I'm really glad to know you and really glad you took the time out of your Sunday to come on.
No, well, thank you guys for having me. I've enjoyed this, so thank you.
Yeah, HG, this was an absolute blessing. It was an absolute honor to have you. And above all else, keep going, okay? We appreciate who you are.
Thank you. Keep going.
All right, guys, keep going.